I mean, you don't have to go through the content, but just go through the PDF. I think all of you got it. If online students, anybody has not got it, please. It should be there in the message. Just check it. All right, so this is exactly what I wanted to brief. So starting today, the course will go for another 3 weeks, probably around 15 classes. And every day I don't want to keep and extend it for a long period of time. Probably it will be like 2 hours or little more than 2 hours. Definitely less than 2.5 hours, because that is the absorbing capacity of the students as well. So that is exactly what I'm planning for. But we'll try to cover all the topics that I've said and making you comfortable in at least 20 questions from this particular area. And I wanted you to secure 40 marks out of this particular program. All right. So let me just, I think you all got the PDF. I'm not solving the questions right now. But yes, so probably I'll just ask you one question. So probably who can tell the answer for this particular question? So probably this particular question. So probably the second question, probably. So can you just put the answer, students who are online or offline? Let me see how many of you are able to actually solve this particular question. This is, I think, question number 2 in the PDF. Only? Okay, online students also can put their comments. And I'm just taking the answers from the offline students also. So probably let me see how many students are getting it right. I'm not solving this question. I'm just taking the answers. So probably in the end, we will see the answers. Consider the following statements regarding the President of India. So this is one area definitely the question is going to come. President is the most important topic. And you can understand every year the question comes, either from the Electoral College or from the areas of his election and all those things. The Electoral College of the President includes members of both the houses of the Parliament, both elected and nominated. All right. So this is the first statement. A sitting member of Parliament or a state legislature cannot contest election of the office of the President. That is statement number 2. The emoluments and allowances of the office of the President are determined by an act of Parliament. So here the statement is, how many of the statements given above are incorrect? Yes, Anil, what is your answer? How many statements are incorrect? I mean, you say only one statement is incorrect in this. So here the question is, how many of the statement is incorrect? So again, that is very important. So you mean to say that 2 statements are incorrect in this, in your opinion? Only one is incorrect. 2 is incorrect. As you have any, what is your name? Tinkle. What is? Tinkle. What is your opinion? Any opinion? Just we'll try to answer all these things. All right. So it is confusing. So here the answer itself is varying. Somebody is saying, some student is saying 2, some student is saying 1. So probably this is a very simple area. 1 and 2 are incorrect. For someone, 1 and 2 is incorrect in the online student. Shiva is saying that. So we'll try to understand as to what exactly is the answer here. So probably if you want one, I'll just take you to another simple question also. So you have multiple answers. So probably 1 is right. Why I'm putting this is, even in a simple topic like President, you take subjects like polity as a very easy thing, but even in a simple subjects, students are having different opinion. That means somewhere or the other, your understanding is not right, or you do not understand. Even some glitches are there. I'm not saying that you do not have an idea. Probably some connections is missing out somewhere. All right, so have a look into the next question. Just have a look into this particular question. So what could be the answer for this question? Consider the following statements regarding the President of India. 1. In case of vacancy to the office of the President, the new President must be elected within a period of 6 months in all cases. How many of you think this statement is right? It is right? All right. I'm not saying the answer. I'm just taking the opinion from the students. But later we'll understand as to what is the answer. What about statement number 2? Any election dispute regarding the election of the president can be challenged only in the Supreme Court. Is that true? Statement 1 is also true. This is also true. So the answer is both 1 and 2. So there may be differing opinion also. We'll say as to what is the answer. So it appears to be a very simple question, but I can understand that even in the simple question, our students are making mistakes. That means somewhere or the other, there's a little bit of lag in your conceptual understanding. So polity is one such subject. So what happens with polity is, polity we take it for granted. We see that it is very easy, but exactly in polity, you'll have to read it line by line. Between lines, every word makes a lot of difference. All right. So that understanding is what I'm trying to give. And unless and until you have that clarity, you'll make a lot of mistakes. But I don't want you to make mistakes in polity. I want you to get 90% of the questions right, which is exactly what I'm trying to do it in this particular course. All right. So just a couple of examples I have given. Now we'll go to the topic, actually, what we wanted to discuss. Okay. So just come to the topic. I think both the online and the offline students, both of you have got the PDF. All right. Okay, the president. So this is exactly what I wanted to go through today. So today I'm not sure whether we'll be able to complete this topic, but I'll go through certain topics and make you understand as to how exactly where you are making mistakes, how exactly you'll have to understand and where you should not make the mistakes. As we'll proceed, we'll understand all those things. All right, so we'll just proceed. I think online students, have you all got the PDF? So just give me a confirmation. And I'm very sure for each and every single student, who thought that something is right for you, so probably you have made some mistake. In 12 questions, I'm sure that in this class, nobody will be able to get more than 6 questions right. I'm sure of that. And you may think it is right, but there is some mistake that you have done. And because that is the way that I have exactly said the question. So you will get a lot of conceptual understanding in that. So I want all the students to download it. So just check it once. There are a few students who are still saying that they have not got the PDF. So check कीजिए. So please confirm that. How many students have not got the PDF there? Okay, so those who have joined the thing, if you're not able to get the PDF, there's a contact number you can call and they'll guide you. So PDF link is there. It is attached in the same mail where the link for the meeting has been shared, where the link for the class has been shared. Okay, so go there and just download it. All right, so now I just wanted to begin just to give an understanding of the topic of president. So let us see as to how much we can cover. So what I'll sincerely suggest is all the offline students and online students, whatever I'm going to discuss, you just make a note in your PDF so that you can revise it for later. So this will be one single source for the revision. You will have all the content there itself. Okay. So first is the President of India. You know that the President is the most important office under the Constitution of India because the President is the head of the Union Executive. I think you are all aware of this. The Constitution provides for a president. And how the president, is he elected or is he appointed in our country? He is elected. So whenever somebody is to be elected, the president is elected. There's no doubt in that. Although he is elected by an indirect election, the president is elected. So whenever somebody has to be elected, there is need for certain qualifications. So what do you understand by the word qualification? That means anybody who is fulfilling these qualifications, he'll be able to contest the election. Suppose let us assume I wanted to contest the election to the office of the president. I have to file a nomination paper before the election process. And for the nomination paper to be accepted, I have to fulfill certain qualifications. And that qualification is given in the Constitution itself. So first thing that you have to understand is to what is a qualification for someone to fill the nomination papers. So for example, Draupadi Murmu, when she filled the election nomination paper, she has filed it. And do you know to whom she has to file the nomination paper, which is not given in the Constitution? To whom she has to fill the nomination paper? Or who conducts the election of the president? Who is the authority under the Constitution who will carry out the election of the president? Which authority? Which authority is supposed to carry out the election of the president? The Election Commission of India. It is the responsibility of whom? The Election Commission of India, and the Election Commission of India nominates the Secretary General Lok Sabha or the Secretary General Rajya Sabha as the authorized person to whom the nomination papers has to be filed. But the overall authority is whom? The Election Commission of India. The Election Commission of India appoints alternatively. If this year it is a Secretary General Lok Sabha, next election it is Secretary General Rajya Sabha. So who is like the presiding officer? Who is the returning officer, I would say, to whom the candidates have to file their nomination paper. So who is going to scrutinize? Who is going to scrutinize whether this particular person is having all the qualifications or not? So what are the qualifications one has to possess? So first thing is he should be a citizen of India. So again, this is very important when I say he is a citizen of India. So here also you need to have a clarity. What is the exact clarity you should have? He should be a citizen of India. Okay, suppose let us assume an American citizen is becoming an Indian citizen. Can he become an Indian citizen? Can a foreigner become an Indian citizen? So just tell me, can a foreigner become an Indian citizen or not? Online students. Is it possible for a foreigner to become an Indian citizen? He can become through the process of naturalization or registration. A foreigner who has become an Indian citizen, can he contest the election of the president? Yes or no? He can also contest, because in our country, as per the constitution, there is no distinction between natural born and naturalized. So at the time of election, he should be a citizen of India. It doesn't matter how he has become the Indian citizen, whether he is citizen by birth, whether he is a citizenship by descent, or through any of the other ways, or by naturalization, registration, it does not matter. But he should be a citizen, and he should have completed 35 years of age. Okay, let us assume instead of this completed, if a word is given not less than 35 years of age, will both the things be same? Completed 35 years of age and not less than 35 years of age is not one and the same. Not less than 35 years of age, he is 35 years. Or maybe more. But completed 35 years means he is definitely more than 35 years of age. So you'll have to make note of these minute nuances. So what is given in the constitution? He should have completed 35 years of age. Okay, citizen of India, completed 35 years of age. And apart from that, he should have all the qualifications to contest election to the Lok Sabha. So this is again very important. So what are the qualifications one should have? He should be a citizen of India, completed 35 years of age, and then he should also be eligible to contest election to the Lok Sabha. Now you should know what are the qualifications one should have to contest election to the Lok Sabha. So which is exactly given in the constitution, to be very specific in Article 84. If you look into there, it is saying that, do you know what are the qualifications for someone to contest election to Lok Sabha? Suppose if you want to contest election to Lok Sabha, you should possess certain qualifications. Anyone. So all these qualifications should be possessed for someone who wanted to contest election where? To the office of the president. So for which what the constitution is, should be a citizen of India, should be not less than 25 years of age. These two things does not make any change because already it is given here also. Citizen of India and completed 35 years of age. So in addition to these things, what qualification one has to possess? That he has to subscribe to an oath. That means a person who wanted to contest election to the office of the president, he has to subscribe to an oath. To whom he has to subscribe to an oath? To whom he has to subscribe to an oath? He has to subscribe to an oath in front of an authorized authority as appointed by the Election Commission of India. So who is the authority which will conduct the election to the president? The Election Commission of India. So the Election Commission of India will appoint the authorized authority. And who is that authorized authority? Usually, it is a Secretary General Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Okay, and then finally, other qualifications as may be determined by the law. So in addition to all those things, what the constitution is saying, the constitution is saying the parliament can make a law, and by that law also additional qualifications may be brought in. So these qualifications are there in the constitution itself. Being a citizen of India, completed 35 years of age, and then he should subscribe to an oath in front of an authorized authority. In this case, that authorized authority will be appointed by the Election Commission of India, which is Secretary General, Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, because he is the one who will conduct the elections, who will be the returning officer. And in addition to that, any other qualifications as may be determined by the law. So what do you mean by any other qualifications as may be determined by the law? Do you have any law related to the election of the Lok Sabha members? There's a law which is passed by the parliament, which is the Representation of People Act. Have you ever heard of this act? Representation of People Act. And that Representation of People Act is giving one condition for someone to contest election to Lok Sabha. One condition under the law is that you have to be a voter to contest election in the Lok Sabha. When I say that you have to be a voter to contest election in the Lok Sabha, that means you should have a voter ID. Your name should be registered in the electoral roll. And if you are eligible to vote, then only you can contest the election. So without you eligible to vote, you cannot contest in the election. So similarly, somebody wanted to contest election to the office of the president, his name has to be registered where? His name has to be registered in any of the constituencies in India. So how many constituencies are there in India? How many constituencies to Lok Sabha? Because it is talking about Lok Sabha. How many constituencies are there? Very good. 543 constituencies, including 28 states and the 8 union territories that you have got right now. So a person wanted to contest election. Yes? No, it is for Lok Sabha. You are talking about the Rajya Sabha. Okay, so it's for Lok Sabha. So 543 constituencies are there. So out of this 543 constituencies, somewhere or the other, his name has to be registered as an elector. Okay, so only when he satisfies all these conditions, he has to be registered as an elector. As an elector in any constituency in India. Now tell me the overall qualifications. Okay. So far what you have understood. So far what are the qualifications? He should be a citizen of India, completed 35 years of age. In addition to that, he should take an oath in front of an authorized authority. So who is that authorized authority? Secretary General Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. And in addition to that, he should be eligible to vote in the Lok Sabha elections. And apart from that, what it is meant, he should not hold any office of profit. So in which article in the Constitution this office of profit is defined? Can someone tell me? This office of profit will come again and again. In fact, this office of profit is coming along with the president, the vice president, the members of parliament, the ministers, and all these people. So tell me, where exactly is this office of profit defined? So why I'm asking this particular question is the word office of profit is nowhere defined in the Constitution. It is nowhere defined in the Constitution. And if something is not defined in the Constitution, so then who gives the clarity on that if it is not defined? The Supreme Court of India. So the Supreme Court of India has explained as to what is this office of profit. So in the words of Supreme Court of India, what exactly is this office of profit? An office of profit is either an office under the central government or under the state government. If you want to write it, you can write it. An office of profit is an office either under the central government or under the state government or under any of the local authorities. An office of profit is an office under the central government or under the state government or under any of the other local authorities or under any of the local authorities. Just try to make it a little faster. It's an office under the central government or under the state government or under any of the local authorities by way of which a salary or a profit is receivable. By way of which a salary or a profit is receivable. By way of which a salary or a profit is receivable. That means what is the understanding you should have? The understanding you should have is, suppose let us assume a government servant is there. Somebody is working in the government. Can that government servant contest election to the office of the president? Suppose let us assume he is a citizen of India. Just think of this scenario. Somebody is working in the government. He is a government officer. He is completed 35 years of age. He is a citizen of India. He subscribed to an oath in front of the Secretary General. And then apart from that, he is also eligible to vote in the Lok Sabha election. Can he contest election to the office of the president by holding on to his office as a government servant? Is he receiving some salary by occupying that particular office from the government? Then it is considered to be an office of profit. So what do you understand by this? That means somebody who is holding any government position, be it in the central government, be it in the state government, or in any of the local authorities like panchayat, municipalities, as long as they're in the particular office, as long as they hold out to that particular office, they will not be able to contest the election. That is not possible. Can they resign and can they contest the election? They can resign from the office and they can contest the election, because if they resign, that is not considered to be an office of profit. But as long as they're in the office, they'll not be able to contest the election. That is not possible. That means they should not hold what? They should not hold any office of profit. So now tell me, what are the conditions? Now overall tell me what are the conditions or what are the qualifications to contest the election. First thing is should be a citizen of India, completed 35 years of age, and then he should subscribe to an oath in front of an authorized authority. And who is that authorized authority? Secretary General Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. And then he should be eligible to vote in the Lok Sabha elections. That means he should have a voter ID in his name in any of the 543 constituencies. And apart from that, he should not hold on to any of the office of profit. So only when someone satisfies all these conditions, then he will be able to contest election to the office of the president. So that's basically the qualification. I want nobody to make any mistakes from the qualification. So qualification means what? Then only they can contest the election in the first place. Then only this will be accepted. Their election papers petition can be accepted by the presiding officer. So who is the officer who will conduct the election here? On behalf of the Election Commission of India, it is the Secretary General Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. All right, understood. Now tell me, can a sitting president contest election? Can a sitting president who is serving as a president, can he again contest the election? Is it possible? Can a sitting vice president contest the election? How many of you think yes? Just think about it very quickly. This is a technical issue. If you say a sitting president can again contest the election, a sitting president is receiving salary from the government. Is he receiving salary from the government? And one of the conditions we are saying that they should not hold on to office of profit. So can he contest election or not? Tell me. Can a sitting president contest election? So does it mean a sitting president has to resign and then contest the election? So can a sitting president contest election? He can do, because there are few exceptions under the constitution. There are certain exceptions which is given in the constitution. So what are those exceptions? A sitting president, a sitting vice president, sitting governors of all the states, and then ministers either at the union level or the state level. So suppose let us assume he is a president, or he is a vice president, or he is a governor of any of the state, or he is a minister both in union as well as a state. Whether they derive the salary or not, it does not matter, because this is exempted to what? These are exempted to be an office of profit. Apart from these four areas, that is apart from president, vice president, governor, ministers at the central level or the state level, if they want to contest the election, then what they have to do? They have to definitely resign from their office, and then only they can contest. But these people, what they can do? By serving that office, they can again contest the election, because these are exempted under the constitution. This is not considered to be an office of profit under the constitution. Is that clear? Is it clear to all of you as to what are the exceptions? All right, so exceptions has to be very clear in your mind. So not the MLAs or MPs. It is only for whom? It is only for the ministers at the union and the state level. MPs and MLAs are not the ministers. Okay. Okay, so these are the exceptions. So now come to the conditions to the office of the president very quickly. So what do you understand by the conditions to the office of the president? If you see conditions to the office of the president, I think the qualifications is quite clear to all of you. So now come to the conditions to the office of the president. So what do you understand by the conditions? Now conditions means that once they become the president, then they have to fulfill certain conditions. After they get elected as the president, they have to still fulfill certain conditions. So qualification is before contesting the election. And what do you mean by conditions? So conditions of the office of the president means Ms. Draupadi Murmu was elected as the president. After she is elected as a president, she has to fulfill certain conditions. So what are those conditions is what you'll have to understand. That means to be in that particular office, they have to fulfill certain conditions. So what are those conditions? Should not be an MP or a member of state legislature. That is very, very important. That means they should not be a MP or a member of state legislature. That means once somebody is elected as a president, they cannot simultaneously continue to be a member of parliament or a member of state legislature. That means the basic question is, can a MP or an MLA, can they contest election in the first place? Can a MP contest election to the president? But once he gets elected, he cannot continue to be an MP. That is true. But my question is, can he contest election in the first place? This is an area where most of the students make a mistake. So can he contest election in the first place? Is it possible or not possible? An MP and MLA can contest election because it is not an office of profit. They can contest the election, but once they win the election, what they can do, they cannot continue to be an MP or MLA. Then they will continue to be only the president. An MP and MLA is not an executive office. So what is the definition that I given for office of profit? Any office either under the central, state or the local authorities. But an MP and MLA is not part of the government. They're part of what? Legislature. So that is not an office of profit. They can contest election. But once they win the election, then they cannot continue to be an MP or an MLA. So that's a basic idea you should have. And they should not hold on to any office of profit. So once they become the president should hold on to only to the office of the president, not to any of the other office. Okay. So they should not hold on to any office of profit. They are entitled for official residence, emoluments as determined by the parliament. So who will determine the salary of the president? Parliament by a law. So it is the law that will determine the salary. If the president's salary is to be changed, who has authority to do that? Very important area for the prelims. Who has authority to do that? It is only the parliament. Nobody else has got the authority. So sometimes they can ask you a question that it can be determined by the government. No. So who can change that? Only the parliament. Until the time the parliament makes a law, it will be as per what is laid down in the schedule 2 of the constitution. But today it is based on the law. And then the emolument shall not be diminished during his term of office. What does it mean? Once somebody is appointed as a president, his salary cannot be reduced, but it can be increased. It can be increased by a further act, but it cannot be reduced. Okay, so these are all the conditions of his office. So be very clear about what are the qualifications and conditions. Sometimes UPSC can ask you which of the following are the conditions of the president. So do not confuse that with the qualifications. So have you understood the difference between conditions and qualifications? So qualifications is before contesting the election, and qualification is once you get elected to the office of the president. So here the areas are, can a sitting president contest election? Of course he can. Sitting president, vice president, governors and ministers both at the central and the state level, that is not considered to be an office of profit because they are exempted by the constitution itself. Okay, so this is the basic thing that you have to understand. Now quickly come to the next area. Come to the next area, that is the election of the president. Okay, so now we have understood two things. One, first thing that you have understood as to who can contest the election, what are the qualifications. Second thing is what is the conditions once he wins the election. But now let us try to understand how the president is elected, because we know that the president is elected in our country because India is a republic. In a republic, the head of the state is always what? Online students, in a republic, the head of the state is always elected. So there's one question from Ramyashri that, sir, in qualification, ministers means MPs and MLAs. No, ministers means different. Ministers means who are appointed as ministers. MLAs and MPs are not ministers. Okay, so they are two different things. Ministers are part of executives. MPs and MLAs are part of legislature. Okay, so they both are different from one another. Now come to the election of the president. So we know that the president is elected, and the president is elected how? And the president is elected indirectly. I think you know all these things. You know that the president is elected indirectly in our country. Whenever I use the word president is elected indirectly, direct election means the people will vote. All the people will vote. But do you think that you and me vote for the president's election? We do not vote because the president, as per the constitution, is elected indirectly. When you say that the president is indirectly elected, that means only certain categories of people will have the right to vote. So who are those categories of people who will have the right to vote? And those categories of people are what is called as the Electoral College. So that is exactly what you'll have to understand. So what do you mean by an Electoral College? So Electoral College is a group of people who have the right to vote in certain elections. So for the presidential election, not every citizen will have the right to vote. Whoever is part of the Electoral College will have the right to vote. And that's why it's basically which is called as an indirect election. So now we'll have to understand as to who is this part of Electoral College. That's again very important for your prelims. Okay, there's a question. Any MP or only union ministers? I've said that very clearly as to when you talk of ministers, the MPs and MLAs are not part of the ministers. Ministers means who are appointed as ministers in the government. Okay. So now come here, the election of the president. When you talk of the election of the president is elected indirectly through what? Through an electoral college. So now we'll have to understand as to who is part of this electoral college. That means we are trying to understand as to who is eligible to vote in the presidential election. So who is eligible to vote in the presidential election? Only these are the categories of people who will be eligible to vote in the presidential election. So first thing the constitution says, elected MPs of both the houses of the parliament. So the word elected is very, very important. That means what it is trying to say, if there are any nominated members, those nominated members will be not part of the electoral college. Okay, can you tell me any nominated members in, can you tell me, is there any nominated members in the Lok Sabha? Is there any nominated members in the Lok Sabha? Okay, so if you're not updated for your kind information, so presently there is no scope for any nominated members. It was there, the original constitution, but recently an amendment has happened and now there is no scope for any nominated members in the Lok Sabha. So that means how many members are there in the Lok Sabha? All the elected members. Elected members, how many in Lok Sabha? Lok Sabha, the elected members are 543 elected. So earlier there were two provisions for two nominated members, but that provision is not there. So there will be 543 members and the elected MPs of both houses means then you have Rajya Sabha. So Rajya Sabha, how many elected members? You have in Rajya Sabha, you have got 233 elected members because 12 members can be nominated by the president. So all these people will be part of the electoral college. So who is excluded in the electoral college? The nominated members are excluded. So make a note of this. It is only the elected members of both houses of the parliament. Nominated members cannot be part of it. And apart from that, not only the elected members of both houses of the parliament, then you have elected members of the legislative assemblies of the states. So how many states we have? 28 states. In all the 28 states, only the elected members. Today in the legislative assemblies, if you see, in the legislative assemblies, we have two bodies. The legislative, it is using only legislative assembly. So in the legislative assembly, if you see, we have 28 states today. Today in the states also, there is no scope for any nomination. Earlier, one person from the Anglo-Indian community could be nominated. That is also not possible. So only all the elected members of the legislative assemblies. But what about legislative council in the state? Not all the state is having legislative council, but yes, there are certain state which is having legislative council. What about the members of legislative council? Are they part of the electoral college? The members of the legislative council are not part of the electoral college. Who is part of the electoral college? Only the elected members of the legislative assembly. Try to keep this in your mind and not legislative council. In legislative council, be it elected, nominated, it does not matter. The members of the legislative council are not part of it. Okay, all the 28 states are part of it. What about the union territories? Is there any members of the legislative assembly of union territories are part of the electoral college? What about the union territories? Just think about the union territories quickly. So how many union territories have got legislature today? 2 or 3? You have National Capital Territory of Delhi, which has got the legislature. You have Puducherry, which has got the legislature. And apart from that, you have Jammu and Kashmir today, which is also an union territory, which has got the legislature. But try to understand. So elected members of legislative assemblies of the state. So all the 28 state elected members will be part of the electoral college. And apart from that, the constitution allows the legislative assembly members and the two elected members of the legislative assemblies of two union territories. What are the union territories? National Capital Territory of Delhi and Puducherry. So being part of the electoral college. Originally, the elected members of the union territories are not part of it. But then later they were inserted by the 70th Constitutional Amendment Act in 1992. In 1992, the constitution was amended, and by amending the constitution, they allowed the legislative assembly members, that is the elected members of two union territories, that is Delhi and Puducherry, to be part of the electoral college. Now tell me, today Jammu and Kashmir is also having the legislature. So the elected members of Jammu and Kashmir, are they part of the electoral college or not part of the electoral college? So how many of you think that in case of Jammu and Kashmir also they are part of the Electoral College? Jammu and Kashmir part of Electoral College or not? Jammu and Kashmir members are not part of the Electoral College, although they may have a legislative body, but that is not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution. So only 2 union territories and today 28 states. Okay, can Jammu and Kashmir again become part of the Electoral College? If they have to become part of the Electoral College, they can become part of Electoral College by 2 ways. So what are the ways by which they can again become part of the Electoral College? 2 ways they can become. One is that again conferring them a status of a state. Suppose if Jammu and Kashmir is again made a part of a state, automatically the elected members of legislative assemblies of the state. Or in other words, or in other way, the one way is you amend the constitution and you include like the legislative assembly of National Capital Territory of Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu and Kashmir. Only by these 2 ways, the legislative assembly members of Jammu and Kashmir can be part of the Electoral College, but presently they are not part of the Electoral College. So it has to be very clear in your mind who is part of the Electoral College. The elected members of both houses of the parliament, the nominated members are not part of it, and the elected members of legislative assemblies of all the 28 states, and the elected members of legislative assembly of Delhi and Puducherry. And who is not part of it? Nominated members of the parliament are not part of it. The members of the legislative councils of the states are not part of it. The legislative assembly members of Jammu and Kashmir is also not part of it. Okay, so this is exactly what you'll have to understand. Be very clear in your mind. Is that clear? That means when I say Electoral College, only these people will have the right to vote. Nobody else will have the right to vote. Is that clear to all of you? Will you make any mistakes in the Electoral College? So you should not make this. Students can get confused through Jammu and Kashmir. Because now you think that the Jammu and Kashmir has got a legislative assembly. The elected members of Jammu and Kashmir, are they part of the Electoral College? Definitely they are not part of the Electoral College. Now let us try to understand the election of the president, how the president is elected. So here I don't have to go too elaborate. You all just have to know the facts for the prelims examination and certain inferences for the prelims examination. All right. So what is the manner of election? This is given in the constitution itself. So purposefully, I have not put any articles. I don't want you to burden with all the articles right now. And UPSC, you can see hardly they ask any articles, probably 1 or 2 articles. After we cover a substantial part, in the end of our course, I'll take 1 class important articles. I'll cover around 100 articles, the important articles. But right now, I don't want to put too many articles, which is not important. You just have to remember the information. That is what is more important. All right, so come here. Now, the manner of election of the president, how the president is elected, we know that the president is elected by an election process, and that is an indirect election. So what is given in the constitution? It is by proportional representation by means of single transfer vote, and the voting is by secret ballot. Just try to understand secret ballot means that whoever is voting the presidential election, others will not come to know about it. That's basically what is called as secret ballot. So proportional representation means that different states in our country, and there are MLAs in different states. There is MLA from Tamil Nadu, MLA from Andhra Pradesh, MLA from Puducherry, or for that matter, Delhi. There are MLAs from Uttar Pradesh. Are the values of the MLAs the same in our country? That is not the same. Because the Constituent Assembly, when they drafted the constitution, they do not want to give the same voting value to all the MLAs. Why? Because they wanted to peg that to the population of that particular state. Because different states are having different population. So a state which is having more population, the value of the MLAs from that state would be more. A state which is having less population, the value of vote of the MLAs from that particular state would be less. And that's exactly what is the idea of proportionate representation or proportional representation. So what do you mean by proportional representation? Different states will have proportionate power in electing the president of India because the MLAs from different states are different. But how that value is going to vary? It's based on what? It is based on the population of that particular state. So that right now you understand, because you don't have to know more about this, because these areas may not be explained deeper in the prelims. You just have to remember this. That is basically proportional representation. And single trans vote is a process that will not be asked in the prelims, but just try to remember the principle. It is proportional representation by means of single transfer vote, and the voting is by secret ballot. Now, one thing I said very clearly, that the value of vote of MLAs are different in different states. How it is different? It is based on population. So the Constituent Assembly also derived a formula for that. So how to calculate the value? You have to remember this particular formula and certain inferences out of this formula. So what would be the value of vote of an MLA? The value of vote of an MLA is equal to total population of this particular state. So the question mark is, how do you know the population? So first you need the population. So how do you know the population? Census, very good, census. But then the question is, which census are we going to use? That's again a question. Because every 10 years we make a census. So which census are we going to use? I'll just come back to that, okay? So population we get from the census. So population, total population of that particular state divided by elected MLAs in that particular state. So we know that every MLA, how many MLAs are there in each and every state? Total population we know from census, how many MLAs are there, into 1/1000. That means, let us assume we are trying to calculate the value of an MLA from Uttar Pradesh. All right, MLA from Uttar Pradesh. So that means total population divided by total population divided by how many MLAs are in Uttar Pradesh? Does anyone got an idea? Anybody from Uttar Pradesh? 403. I'll just give that to you. 403 into 1/1000. So this is exactly the formula to calculate the value of Uttar Pradesh. You don't have to remember the values, but the formula. That is approximately equal to the value of MLA from Uttar Pradesh is 208. And you don't have to remember that number. That is not important. But this is the formula. Now tell me, if I want to calculate the value for Tamil Nadu, say let us assume, then I have to put the population of Tamil Nadu here. And then I have to put the MLAs in the state of Tamil Nadu, which is I think 239 multiplied by 1/1000. Will the value be same? Value of vote of MLA as in case of Uttar Pradesh? Will it be same or different? Online students. Will that be same or different? It will of course be different. Why? Because population is different. The number of MLAs are also different. So both the variables are different. When both the variables are different, automatically your outcome is also different. I think in case of Tamil Nadu, it is approximately 175 or something. In case of Uttar Pradesh, it is 10208. So that means what is the basic observation you should have? Because the value of vote of MLA is based on the population and the elected MLAs. Two different states and the value of these MLAs are never going to be same. Or in other words, I could say the value of vote of MLAs from different states is different. Can you understand? Can you observe that observation? Because it is based on what? Population and the elected MLAs, which is not same for two different states. So the value of vote of different state is going to be different. Do you agree with me? As it is highest in case of Uttar Pradesh, I think it is lowest in case of Sikkim. It is as less as 7, the value of vote of MLAs in Sikkim. It is as high as in case of the Uttar Pradesh. That is 208, and in between this vary for different states. Okay, now the second thing is, now you also have the MPs who are part of the Electoral College. So there should be some value for the vote of MPs also. Now, by this way, you can calculate the value of MLAs. So what is the formula to calculate the value of an MP? Now come to this particular question. So how do you calculate this value? So if you look into the value of vote of an MP, so the value of vote of an MP is calculated by value of vote of all the elected MLAs. That means for different states, you get the value and then you sum up all the value of MLAs. So you will get a figure in the numerator. You sum up value of the MPs, all the MPs from Uttar Pradesh, all the MPs from Tamil Nadu, all the MPs from all the 28 states and 2 union territories. You'll get some one figure that divided by, so whatever is the figure here, you will just put that figure here. That divided by elected MPs. So how many elected MPs we have? That is including both the houses. Can someone quickly tell me how many elected MPs we have? That is 543 plus 243. That is the elected MPs. So that is a constant, 776. So you will get a value here that is approximately equal to 708. So the value of MP is equal to 708. That is approximately. Now tell me the value of an MP, where it is high. It is high in Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha? Which MP's value will be higher? Lok Sabha MPs or Rajya Sabha MPs? Or is it the same? Well, the value of vote of an MLA is going to vary depending on the population. What about the value of an MP? Is it the same in both the houses? It is of course same, because what is the formula saying? The formula is saying value of a MP. It is not saying value of a MP from Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. So irrespective of the houses, the value of MP is going to be the same. So the second inference that you have to understand is the value of MP is the same, irrespective of whether he is from Lok Sabha or whether he is from Rajya Sabha. What is about the value of an MLA? The value of an MLA is going to vary from state to state, because it depends upon what? It is going to depend upon the population and the elected MLAs in that particular state. Is these two things very clear? This is exactly from where the questions are asked every year. So this observation is not given. You'll have to draw that inference. Okay. Now, the third thing is the value of vote of an MLA is different from different state. You got that? Now, if you compare the value of vote of an MP and an MLA, which is higher? For that matter, you take the value of vote of an MLA from any state. Which is higher? MP is higher or MLA is higher? In case of MLA, the highest value for the MLA is in the state of Uttar Pradesh. And what is the value? 208. And for an MP, what is the value? 708. So the value of vote of an MP is always going to be higher than the value of vote of an MLA from any state. So three inference or observation has to be very, very clear in your mind. Is that clear to all of you? So first thing, the value of vote of an MP is the same, irrespective of the house. Clear? Now the second thing is value of vote of an MP is greater than the value of vote of an MLA, irrespective of the state. And the value of vote of an MLA is different in different state, because it is going to depend on population and the elected MPs. Okay. Sorry, elected MLAs. Now, here I told to calculate the value of vote of an MLA, what is relevant for us is the population. So now the question is which population is to be taken into account. If you look into the original constitution says that the latest census to be taken into account. Suppose if the election is conducted now, I think last year the election was conducted, 2022. So what was the latest census at that point of time? 2011 census. Very good. So that means we should have taken the 2011 census that was there in the original constitution. But then that was amended. That was amended by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976. The 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976, what they did, they replaced the word latest census by the word 1971 census. So instead of the latest census, which census is used today? 1971 census. And they want this 1971 census to be used till the year 2001. So till the year 2001, which census is to be used? 1971 census. That is what happened in the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, so what happened in the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, which happened in 1976? They replaced the year, the latest census with the word 1971 census, and that is likely to continue till 2001. Then subsequently, again in 2001, what has happened? Again in 2001, by the 84th Constitutional Amendment Act, again this was amended, and then they extended this 1971 census till the year 2026. Or in other words, till the first census after 2026. So till that point of time, it has been extended. All right. So that means what is the idea you should have? The idea that you should have is, so presently which census is used? 1971 census. And this 1971 census is likely to be used till which point of time? Till the first census after 2026, not even only after up to 2026, till the first census after 2026. We are not sure when the first census will happen. So normally by the present trend, it should happen by 2031. So if it happens in 2031, then in the year 2031, the 1971 census will be replaced with the latest census. So any election that will happen post 2031, it will be based on 2031 census. But till that point of time, which census? 1971 census. That is what has happened by the 84th Constitutional Amendment Act. So all these things has to be very, very clear in your mind. Is it clear? Okay. Now you have covered a substantial thing. Now let me just go back to the question. Okay, I'll just cover one more topic before I'll go to the questions. So is it clear to all of you till this point of time? Online students, any question? There's a question from Shivam who is saying that 543 plus 245. No, it is not 543 plus 245. It is 543 plus 233. Because the nominated members are not part of the Electoral College. Only the elected members in Rajya Sabha is part of the Electoral College. I think it is quite clear to all of you. Now just quickly come to one more slide. I'll just discuss this topic and then I'll go to some questions. So now you'll understand where you are exactly making the question. That exercise is also very important. Okay, now come to the term of the office of the president. So term means normally once he is elected, how long he can be the president and the other conditions of his office. So normally what is the term of the office? 5 years from the day he assumes the office. So whenever he enters office, not from the date of election, whenever he'll enter into the office, from that particular day, how much time? 5 years since the day he assumes the office. And then as a president of India, so try to understand this. So as per the Constitution of India, he can resign at any time. To whom he can submit the resignation? The president can submit the resignation to whom? That is on his own, he can resign. And he can resign and he can submit the resignation to the Vice President of India. So this is in fact alternate vice versa. The president can do it to the vice president and the vice president can do it to the president. So try to remember this is from the date he assumes the office. And then the president can also be removed from his office at any time. There's a process to remove him also. And that is basically what is called as the impeachment of the president. So the president can be impeached, but the only condition on which he can be impeached or he can be removed from his office is what is the ground? Is on the ground of violation of the constitution. This is given in the constitution itself. Okay, now fundamental question to all of you is a violation of the constitution defined in the constitution? Is it defined in the constitution? What amounts to violation of the constitution? The constitution says that he can be removed for the violation of the constitution, but is it defined in the constitution? That is my question. Is it defined anywhere? How many of you think yes, it is defined in the constitution? How many of you think it is not defined? And how many of you is of the opinion I don't have an idea, sir, for this particular question? Now try to understand all that the constitution says is that the president can be removed for the violation of the constitution. But what amounts to violation of the constitution is not defined anywhere. But you can have a general understanding that the president is supposed to do certain things under the constitution. And if he's not doing that, then he is violating the constitution. Now, can anyone give me an example? What can be seen as a violation of the constitution? So I'm saying that the president is supposed to do something, but if he is not doing that, then that would amount to violation of the constitution. So can someone tell me what amounts to violation? What is Article 74 of the Constitution? Can anyone recall what is Article 74 of the Constitution? Very good. He has to act in accordance with the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. All right. So if the Council of Ministers are giving some advice, but the president is doing something on his own, can that be seen as a violation of the Constitution? Because as per the Constitution, he is supposed to act in accordance with the aid and advice which is given by the Council of Ministers. And in that way, we are making sure that in our country, the president is not the real executive. Who is the real executive? The Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. And the president is bound to act in accordance with this advice. So if the ministers are advising something, the president is doing something, then that means he is violating the constitution and for which he can be impeached. But however, till this point of time, not even a single president has been impeached in our country. That's a different story. Not even an impeachment motion has been introduced. That's a different story. But yes, there is a provision for his removal. But make sure that this violation of constitution is not defined in the constitution. But basically, when he violates the constitution or he acts contrary to what he has to do under the constitution, it can be seen as violation of the constitution. So here you can use the example of Article 74. That he basically act in accordance with the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Just to give you a conceptual clarity. All right. So this is basically what you'll have to understand. And he continued to hold office. Suppose the president assumes the office. This is very, very important. He continues to hold office even after the expiry till the successor assumes the office. Now, what is the term of the president? I said, since the time he assumes office, it is for a period of 5 years. Now, what normally happens in our country? This is exactly, I think most of the students are making mistakes. So this is something that you have to understand. So normally what happens in our country is, suppose if the president term is coming to end, that his 5-year term is going to get over. So before the term is over, the new president has to be elected. Try to understand that. Before Mr. Ramnath Kovind term was over, Mrs. 𝗬𝗏𝗁 Murmu was elected as the president. And on the last day, when a term will over, the new president will assume the office. But suppose let us assume the new president is elected, but the new president is not able to assume the office. And the incumbent president, his term has expired. So in this case, what will happen? Suppose, just try to understand this particular scenario that the new president is elected, and the outgoing president, his term is over. His or her term is over. But on the last day, the new president is not able to assume the office. Maybe the new president-elect met with an accident, or he is hospitalized, or he is suffering from some ailment, so he is not able to assume the office. So in this case, who will act as the president? Because the previous president term is over now. So the vice president will discharge the duties of the president, or the outgoing president would continue to be the president. Now try to understand in this case what the constitution is saying. In this case, the outgoing president would continue to be the president. That is what is very, very important. The vice president will not become, because the constitution allows for that. Okay. So the outgoing president would continue to be the president of India in this particular case. This, I think most of the students think that the vice president will act as a president. No. When the term is over because of the expiry of the term, if there is a vacancy because of the expiry of the term and the new president is not able to assume the office, but he is elected. So who would continue to be the president? The outgoing president would continue to be the president. And as per the Constitution of India, anybody who is elected as a president, before he assumes the office, he has to be administered a oath. And who will administer the oath? It is the Chief Justice of India. In the absence of the Chief Justice of India, the senior most judge of the Supreme Court has to administer the oath. And without this oath, he will not be able to enter into the office or assume the office. And where is this oath mentioned? Is it mentioned in the third schedule of the Constitution? If you see the third schedule of the Constitution, there are certain oath that is mentioned. Is this oath mentioned in the third schedule of the Constitution? Of course, it is not mentioned in the third schedule of the Constitution. So third schedule, do not get confused. This oath is mentioned inside the article itself, inside a specific article, but not in the third schedule. In the third schedule, there are oath for the MPs, ministers, for the CAG and all those people, judges of Supreme Court and High Court, but not for the president. So do not confuse in your mind that this oath is mentioned in the third schedule. No, it is mentioned directly inside the Constitution. And anyone who is elected as the president, he is eligible for re-election. Is there any restriction as to how many terms he can be a president? Under the Constitution of India, there is no restriction. There is no restriction as to how many terms he can be a president. Okay, so that has to be very clear in your mind. Okay, so these are all the very important things that you have to understand. And of course, I said that the president can be impeached or he can be removed from his office under what ground? For the violation of the Constitution. Is it defined in the Constitution? It is not defined in the Constitution, but how he can be removed, that process is given in the Constitution. I'll just come back to that particular process, okay? So before I proceed further, now I wanted you to solve a couple of questions to understand as to what kind of mistakes you have made. Come to the questions and then I'll proceed further. Online students, you also come to the questions. So probably I think first one or two questions we'll be able to solve by this time. Now we will understand earlier if you have made any mistakes. Now you would understand as to what kind of mistakes you have made in how you process the information. All right, so just have a look into the first question. With reference to the election of the President of India, consider the following statements. So this question is related to the election of the President. Statement 1. The value of vote of MLA varies from state to state. Is it true? We understood that because it is based on what? Population and the elected MLAs. So is it going to vary? So this is definitely true, correct. 2. The value of vote of MPs of the Lok Sabha is more than the value of vote of MPs in the Rajya Sabha. Is it true? The value of vote of MPs of the Lok Sabha is more than the value of vote of MPs in the Rajya Sabha. Is it true? It is not true. It is false, because the value of vote of an MP is the same, irrespective of whether they are in Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha. Just now we have understood this. So previously, if the students have made a mistake, now you can understand what exactly is a mistake you are doing. So 3 inferences we have drawn. I'm just repeating those inferences. So whenever you attend this class, so I wanted you to take notes of whatever I'm saying. And whenever you solve a question, I wanted you to take notes side by side so that you do not make a mistake again. And that will act as a area where you can revise it very quickly. And next time when you see this again, immediately you'll understand what kind of mistakes you have made. So 3 inferences, I'm repeating it again. The value of vote of an MLA is going to vary from state to state. The value of MP is the same, irrespective of their houses. And the value of MP is always going to be higher than the value of a MLA, irrespective of the states. So this particular thing is definitely wrong. So which of the statements given above are correct? What is correct? Okay, now tell me how many of you earlier made a mistake in this? How many of you made a mistake? So, Ilakya. So, what mistake you made? You selected D, that means you thought both are wrong. And you thought this is also wrong. So, now you got that understanding. You got it right earlier? You got it right? Very good. You got it right? I think online students also, now you will understand if you have made any mistakes. So, this is how we are going to touch upon each and every area. Okay. Quickly come to the next question. Come to the next question. So solve this particular question. Now you will understand as to what kind of mistakes you have made in the question solving these questions. So consider the following statements. So if you have understood whatever I thought till this point of time, you will not make a mistake here. If you have made a mistake earlier, now we'll get it right. Solve this question. Consider the following statements regarding the President of India. The Electoral College of the President includes members of both the houses of the Parliament, both elected and nominated. Is it true? Does the Electoral College includes both elected and the nominated? It includes only the elected members, not the nominated. So if you say it is nominated, then it is definitely wrong. So just now you have understood. It does not include the nominated members. So this is wrong because it includes only the elected members. Come to statement number 2. A sitting member of parliament or the state legislature cannot contest election to the office of the president. Is it true? A sitting member of parliament or the state legislature cannot contest election to the office of the president. Is that true? Can a sitting member contest election or not? Go to your conditions of office. Go to the conditions of office and the qualifications. What the qualification is saying, just read the qualifications. It is about qualification. It is asking whether he is eligible to contest election or not. In the qualifications, what you have seen? Can anyone read out the qualifications? Yes, can you read out the qualifications, whatever you learned? Yes, what is your name? Can you read out the qualifications? Qualifications to contest election to the office of the president. Citizen of India, then completed 35 years of age, eligible to contest election to Lok Sabha, which includes that he has to take a oath in front of an authorized authority. He should be a registered voter. And the next thing is he should not have an office of profit. Now, what is an office of profit? He should not hold any office either under the central government, state government, or under the local authorities. But here, a sitting member of parliament or a member of state legislature is not an office of profit. Because he is not a minister. So most of you might confuse this to be an office of profit. I categorically said, what is an office of profit? It should be an office either under the center, state, or under the local authorities. But he is an MP or an MLA. So an MP or an MLA is not an office of profit. They can, of course, contest the election. So, but the statement, what it is saying? It is saying that they cannot contest the election. So is it true or false? It is false. They can contest the election. This is incorrect. The statement is incorrect. Is it clear to all of you? Now come to the third statement. The emoluments and allowances of the president are determined by an act of parliament. Is that true? It is determined by an act of parliament. Only the parliament can increase or it can decrease. In fact, the parliament cannot decrease. It can increase that. So now tell me how many of the statements given above are incorrect. How many of the statement? It is not asking which of these statement. So again, do not make a mistake here. That's why I'm putting you across all this practice. So how many means overall out of the 3 statements, how many statements are incorrect? What is the answer? 2 statement or 1 statement? So first statement is okay, incorrect. Second statement is incorrect. So which is the answer? Option B. So now you will understand if you have made any mistakes. So this is exactly in the subject polity, probably you will make a mistake. All right. So now you come to the next question. Let me see that we have done with the next question also. Is it possible with the information we have? Consider the following statement. Okay, vacancy, I have not touched it. So probably we'll have to proceed further. So I'll cover a little bit of ground for another half an hour. Probably we'll be able to solve another couple of questions. Okay. Okay, now you have understood 2 questions as to what kind of mistakes you are making. Now come to the topic that I have been discussing. Okay, so come to the Next topic, that is the procedure for impeachment.